Today on the Course Cafe, I'm joined by Matt Lemman of Jones Sport Co. It's a family-owned brand that brought a legend back to life. We talk about reviving a legacy, designing with restraint, and how Portland's golf culture helped shape the brand's future. From vintage bags to global collabs, Jones is a part of the modern golf story, and this episode dives into how they got there. Let's get into it. This is way back in the day. This is from when is the date? In June 2020 or June 2012. It's like a whole squad. This is like doom scrolling the
Yeah,
Jones IG
sick
page
Travis
because I
Matthew
think
belt, dude.
white pants, Travis Matthew belt,
Sick white belt, dude.
crazy art. Talk
Yeah.
talk me through like where are we at in this world and day right now in this photo.
In this picture,
Yeah. Do you know what golf
that's
course
like,
you're at?
yeah, we're at Oswego Lake, my home course. So
Okay.
just, doing the old try and fake it when you make it, or trying to fake it and make it. Um, yeah, at Oswego Lake Country Club, just had a good camera with a buddy of mine, and yeah, trying to act like a model, obviously. So there it is. Yeah,
Yeah, the whole
that was
squad. It
like
was like
kind of when we just got our first set of bags in. Look, we don't even have, there's not even a head cover on the bag. Oh, it's so bad. It's
just
great
completely
though.
raw dogging it. The belt
It's
is
great though. Yeah,
iconic. Do you
raw
still have
dog.
that?
What's that?
That belt that you have on.
No, thank God. No, no,
I feel like that's
no,
kind of a
no.
look. That's like very Anthony
Yeah,
Kim.
oh, it is. I mean, my name's Matt and Travis Matthew. There you go.
That's
That's when I thought I
hilarious.
was cool. Yeah, that's good.
Um, so yeah, I think what was fascinating, and I talked about it at the top, but like I feel like there's two stories in Jones, and not a lot of people are familiar with either or in terms of like OG days to like kind of how to the
Hmm.
point where you guys have gotten like now. Um, I think for people who aren't paying much attention or don't know, and then heat check me here, but so George Jones, like way back in the day, started the company back in 71 out of his car. Very similar vibes to like OG Nike
Hmm.
days with Phil Knight. Did they ever cross paths, by the way?
No, no,
That is so crazy because
not that I'm aware of.
the
But yeah, I mean
stories are like
that's
strikingly similar.
one year before Nike, which is
Hmm.
crazy.
And then Jones was like dominating the States and Canada in terms of
Hmm.
bags in colleges and high school and whatnot. And then he
Yeah.
wound up selling the company back in 90. I don't know who he sold it to, but for like 6.5 million. And then your dad came around and bought the company for like 10,000, which is one of the ultimate come ups, I think, in like the history of golf. Is that all that
Very,
pretty accurate?
very, very close. Yeah, very, very close to accurate.
That is so wild.
Yeah,
And that was
it
like
was
all the
normal.
IP and everything too, right?
Basically, just like the name. So not much there. I mean, we had to like try and go get the trademark. All the trademarks were gone. So
Okay.
yeah, basically just the name of Jones Sports Company was pretty
Which
much
is,
it, and that the rights to the logo.
hmm And then before your dad bought it, he had was it the North Coast Electric Company?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you work for that company
Yeah,
before Jones? Okay.
yeah, we did.
So then after everything was sold, you guys just jumped straight into Jones?
So no, so I left before North Coast was sold. The
Okay.
opportunity to purchase Jones kind of arose, and so my dad and my brother and I jumped on it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we purchased it from Yoshida, who's
Yoshida.
the teriyaki sauce guy here in Portland, Oregon as well. So
Mm-hmm.
he bought it from George Jones in the early 2000s. So he kind of saw the, decline of making things here in the States and took it overseas.
Mm-hmm.
But really, he changed the logo. It became
Mm-hmm.
kind of just a overseas mess, and it kind of, ran into the ground, if you will, and just kind of lost it all. But he basically bought Jones more for the building than the brand.
Yep.
So it kind of just dissipated over a while. And, we had the idea of bringing back that old Jones bag. Like in high school, I had a Jones stand bag, Jones Oregon Duck stand bag that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a very, very good, dependable bag that, was pretty much bulletproof back in the
Mm-hmm.
day because they were made here in the States. And, you get so many good stories of guys that grew up carrying the bag and,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that badge of honor with, their high school team name or college team name down the side with their name on the bag.
Sure.
And the most common story we always get is people with anger issues taking their 6 iron to the bottom mold of the bag and having to duct tape their bag because, mom and dad's not going to buy you a new one, dude. You got to figure
Yeah.
out what you're going to do with this one. So a lot of them have duct tape on the bottom.
That's hilarious. When
Yeah.
you guys, when it was like fully acquired and everything, and you guys were starting to like really hunker down, what were like the first three things in the first couple of months you're like, we have to nail this, or at least like as a collective, figure out what you guys wanted to prioritize?
Well, we wanted to prioritize what everyone remembered, which was the OG, right? The original Jones bag, because that's kind of our Air Force One, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something we don't want to change. We want to bring back to what George Jones originally built and was so known for back in the early 70s and all the way to the late 80s. So kind of just starting with that icon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going to the PGA show back in 2012 and getting, a 45 to 50-year-old pro walk by our booth and instantly recognize that bag and say, oh shit, Jones is back, which
Mm-hmm.
is like, so you immediately had that validity from these old pros that it became easy for us to sell.
Yep.
Really starting with what the roots were of Jones with the original, then followed by the classic stand bag, which is kind of the one I carried in high school with, the fur top and the buckles.
Yep.
Also, another kind of iconic look that we wanted to bring to the market that people recognize and could be familiar with.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of like design and IP and everything, were you guys like hunting down either like sketches and logos and like art and typefaces? Did you have to go find all that stuff?
I was buying bags off eBay and sending them to factories and trying to figure it out.
Holy smokes,
Literally, yeah,
really?
literally just buying bags off eBay.
Did you have
Yeah,
any existing relationships with any of like the factory setups prior to the brand
no,
getting originally acquired?
zero.
Wow. So everything was just legit from scratch.
Yeah, and then
That's
I met my
insane.
current business partner, Chris Carnahan,
Yep.
who's been with us from the beginning as well, who had the access to the factories and some experience in working overseas and building with manufacturers in China and Vietnam. So
Mm-hmm.
he came along, thank God he did, and was like, "Hey, we got to do this right." I didn't know what I was doing. I was a young kid, left my family business at age 25, just trying to do something I'm passionate about. And luckily, he came along and helped us build this thing from what it was into what it is today.
Did you guys reconnect with George early on just to get like internal heat checks or anything to make sure you guys were at least like accurately putting things back together the right way?
The lights just went off on me. Is that all right?
No, you're straight.
Say again. Sorry.
Did in the early days, did you guys hit up George just as like an
Yeah,
internal heat check
yeah,
and
we
like a
got
reference
to
point?
meet him. So he passed a couple years ago, but yeah, he did come in after we had just finished manufacturing the classic stand bag. So we did have the original and the classic, and
Hmm.
George came in and kind of went through everything. Your basic old guy who's been around the block, just
Yep.
kind of checking everything out and we got the nod of approval. He was like, "You guys did a great job here. This is a lot like what I did."
Hmm.
Especially from, he used to tinker and do everything here in Portland, Oregon. And so to replicate something close as we can, overseas, that was kind of special to get that nod of approval.
So what was the first trade show you guys showed up with like actual product?
2012 PGA
That
show in
was
Orlando.
2012.
Yeah.
And you guys, a lot of people, like you had said, obviously like recognized the brand name and even like the product silhouette. Was there just a ton of questions on like what's the future of Jones? Like, is this a real thing? How do you like
No,
contact
they
you?
just wanted that. They just wanted the carry bag. And that was
Really?
the great thing too, Raymond, is like you're getting accounts like Wingfoot. They're like, "Yeah, we'll
Yep.
bring it in." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Sweet." Like it
No
was it
questions
was kind
asked.
of
That's
just
insane.
selling itself.
Yeah.
Um, but all the timing of it was just so great too, because that like is right when like Instagram started, right?
Yep.
So I hopped on there, created an Instagram account, you know, and then we were able to kind of connect with the younger generations that didn't grow up with Jones and kind of showing them what's old is new, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of bringing back that old style, similar to like a Ray-Ban sunglass or, like I said, an Air Force One, stuff that just doesn't really go out of style. So
Mm-hmm.
we're able to connect with the younger generations that way at the same time. And
Yep.
then, obviously we got the original and the classic sandbag. What are we going to do next? Right. Well, everything back then was a single strap sandbag, but they're like, hey, we need the double strap. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, yeah, we got to bring a double strap out. And that's kind of where the utility series was born. And that's our another mark that you see. That's kind of, the diamond triangle looking logo that we created. And from that, it was really like bringing in our flair to it with a Pacific Northwest lifestyle vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Because, back to that picture of me in the beginning that you showed, Travis Matthew in the beginning did such a good job with creating a lifestyle type off course vibe with SoCal.
Yep.
Well, we want to embody that with the Pacific Northwest and like show our roots with, the earth tones and olives and soft blues and clays and all that stuff. So that's how that kind of evolved. And then once we got that validity, we needed to bring out more lifestyle bags. So that's where
Mm-hmm.
like the duffels, the backpacks, the coolers all came into play because we were also getting these member guests T prize orders, right? And so in order for them to come back to us, we needed to have more stuff for them to come by. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how that all shook out.
So after like the trade show period when you guys are formally back, like was there um like a legit announcement just to let like the industry know that you guys were back and going to be here for like long term?
Purely organic growth
That's
and
insane.
word of mouth, like uh, I owe a lot of gratitude to Ashley Mayo early on. She used to work for Golf Digest and started the Golf Digest Instagram page back in the day and would give
Mm,
give us a bunch of shout outs and kind of get us, some validity there with the younger generations. Um, so just kind of word of mouth and slowly growing our page organically. We've just kind of done a little tick, tick, tick up each year. We've always just kind of stayed authentic to who we are as literally golfers making golf bags. We got a lot of sticks in the house. And
mm-hmm.
so we like to think we know what is cool in the golf space. And not only that, what's functional.
Yeah. Was there any like convincing knowing that like you guys were back, but people had known this other version of Jones? Like, did you have to kind of
The
backtrack in
convincing it would
storytelling?
be like convincing would be like, trying to find a guy like you that's never heard of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or didn't grow up with it. But, you kind of you see someone strolling down the fairway with a Jones, like you know that it's a Jones, right? Like
Yep.
just the look of carrying it backwards, right? Slung over your shoulder like a gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
There's just kind of that cool factor to it with the old school. So I would say I didn't really push anything other than just like trying to bring out the coolest stuff we can with new colors and try and keeping things fresh without like jamming it down people's throats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because it kind of reminds me of like the Apple story where when Steve leaves, like the design, the intention didn't feel the same. So then there was like this hesitancy in the industry. But when he came back, it was that like newfound energy and direction. It feels very similar in the sense that like when I say convincing, are people like questioning who you guys are and like what your intention is. But once they see product and like you said, hear the chatter on what you guys are building, like it
Hmm.
doesn't take much for them to jump back into what originally was a really great relationship with a really strong brand from back in the day.
Totally. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I mean,
insane.
there's
That's so
never been
wild.
like really any huge intent or marketing strategy from that standpoint. It's just kind of like sticking to who we are. Like if you come into this office, we're all one big family. There's 20 of us and we
Hmm.
talk shit all day, but we get shit done. And like, that's just kind of who we are. And like, we just make cool stuff and, hopefully people like it. If they don't, that's
Hmm.
okay. We'll just keep grinding and see if we can make something that everyone likes.
When you guys were buying a lot of those like eBay's pieces just to try and like restart the sampling process, like was there any pressure in like trying to recreate, just making sure that it was authentic to what it used to be, but
Sure.
obviously like refined for today?
Yeah. I mean, pressure's all relative, right? Yeah. I mean, the pressure is trying to get money in the bank, right? And get out of the red and get things going and take care of the people here that you want to be take care of and earn what they deserve to earn. That's kind of the pressure I felt more than anything, as opposed to making someone something that they like. So just getting off the ground and turning and burning and being able to go in year out and come to work and love what we do is kind of how it just comes full circle.
hmm Was there like a moment, or is it that maybe it was 2012, like the PGA show, when you felt like Jones is like actually back?
It's a great question. I would say once we came out with the utility series and kind of put our own spin and touch on it, and it
Mm,
was well received, then it felt like we had accomplished it. We're here to stay, and we know people are going to trust what we bring out year in and year out.
hmm Um, what was the other? I had I think like again going back to like the Instagram and like the content stuff. I feel like that is a really big piece that from a narrative perspective, like visually you guys are showing up different than like the past brand because a lot of like the resources weren't there to be able to storytell the brand. Like how much do you think that benefited you guys before where we're at today, where everything is so like culturally rich, where you almost had this like refinement period to like really, from a product standpoint and a brand standpoint, like really like tie everything together for like the brand to really pop and excel where we're at today.
Yeah, I mean, it was really kind of focusing on catering to the old school country clubs,
hmm
and like getting that classy vibe to really push where it needed to be, because that's like over on the northeast side of the country, we do really, really well over there, and that's attributed to our guys selling it day in, day out. But really focusing in on the classic side of the brand has been very important. Staying true to the roots
Hmm.
of what Jones was remembered as opposed to kind of pushing the envelope, because like the wholesale chassis side of our business is so important. Like D2C is kind of like hit or miss these days. It's some days you'll have good days of sales on the website, some days you won't. And the consistency of getting into pro shops, calling on the shops, and having these relationships with all the head pros around the country, that's we found that to be the most important side of our business, especially
hmm
in the past couple of years and post COVID.
Interesting. Do you think if you started to bring back the brand like in this COVID period, like how much different do you think the brand would be if like 3 years ago was the restart as opposed to back
So
in the
different.
day?
So
Yeah.
different. I mean, like everyone's, just trying to start their Instagram page and, see how many follows you can get and like what it takes to do that. How much ad dollars are you going to throw in order to send a bag, instead
hmm
of hitting the phones and, try and get bags on the floor in pro shops. It would be
hmm
completely different. I have no idea what it would look like.
Yeah.
I don't think it would feel as authentic, like the fact that we've had this longevity for almost 15 years. I think that attributes to showing that we're here to stay and we're not going anywhere, where you're just kind of seeing new brands pop up everywhere. And will you see them next year? Maybe. I don't know.
hmm When there was like a shift in a lot of that energy, did it feel like you guys were ready to like step into that cultural universe? I think like with collabs
It,
and stuff has been really
I mean, it kind of
interesting
just
and
happened naturally.
yeah.
Because it's like you have that that relationship with the guy that grew up carrying the bag, but then like you have like a Malvin golf guy, right? That is maybe just starting golf and
hmm
thinking golf is cool. Like teaming up with Steven when he first started and collabing with him, it kind of gave us the street cred with, the more street vibe, which was great, right? It's like, okay, our brand can really resonate with anyone,
Mm-hmm.
like you throw a Malvin logo on our carry bag and it sets it off. It pops. It looks cool
Yeah.
and people dig that too. But you can also, throw the Wingfoot logo on it and shoot, that's a different look too.
A whole different world. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's very versatile, and that wasn't by design. That was more luck.
Hmm. Well,
you
and I
know.
think going to back like what you said when you started to expand like your product category, that's a big part of it too. Because
Mhm.
to your point, and this is like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to get product right, especially when you're designing from an ecosystem that's already existed and you want to get back to like that classic reframing
Yeah,
to be able to like, then expand a product line off of that. Again, that taps back into like the Pacific Northwest vibes, but still speaks to like the vintage old school version of Jones. Like
hmm
that's a big win too. And then it was available for people to then come and pick and choose based off like their archetype in the space.
yeah.
Like when you guys started having conversations on what it would look like to expand the portfolio, how did you know what was Jones and what was like noise? Like be able to say no to basically.
That was like, so it's funny. We'd have these brain sessions, right? And they would usually happen on golf trips. Like
Mm,
say like going to Bandon, like me and Carnahan, we'd go to Bandon with our boys and we'd figure out, okay, I'm taking a lot of shit to this trip. So why can't we make all this stuff that you want to bring on these buddies trips? Right? Like,
mm-hmm,
okay, so what do you need to fit all this into this? And that's where like our weekender duffel was born, right? It's like, okay, you got a slot for your hats, you don't want those to get crushed. You got a slot for your dirty laundry. And then you
mm-hmm,
got two compartments. It closes up. It can be a duffel, it can be a backpack. It's versatile. Just like stuff like that, figuring out what do you need when you go to the course, whether that is on a boys trip, whether that's cruising to the locker room with a shoe tote, whether that's going to the golf cart with 6 beers. Where are you going to put the beers? Oh, we need a
mm-hmm.
cooler, right? Just having all these options and all these different bags that people can use day in on day out on different situations. So it just kind of evolved that way. And we just keep trying to think outside the box because the more you develop, the more you want to keep it fresh and come up with something else that no one's come up with yet. So,
Yeah. How are you guys cataloging that, or is it like a mood
yeah,
board, or is there like little sessions
yeah,
that you guys have weekly,
absolutely.
bi-weekly, or something?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, like we have a lot of good golfers that, a few pay, played professionally for a few years, a few played, at the collegiate level, at the high school level. We have 8 guys that are scratch or below here.
Mm,
So like we have kind of these brains, whether they're doing one's ordering product, one's doing logistics, one's selling golf bags. We all have the common goal of, what do we need when we're going to the golf course?
yep.
So it's a collective effort. It's not just like Chris Carnahan designing everything. It's like, all right, guys, what do you think of this? Oh, so and so. I got this idea. Oh, that's great. Let's see what we can do there. So it's kind of just like a creative think tank that kind of happens day in, day out, because we do have kind of like a bullpen office environment as well, which
Mm.
is very helpful because you can kind of just shoot the shit if you need to and, hammer out an idea from across the room.
So when you guys are heat checking stuff, is it all internal, and then you start to either like
Yeah.
seed units or bring other people from the outside in?
Yeah. Totally.
That's sick.
Yeah. We'll have, weekly meetings with our entire staff, and there'll be a brain session there. If someone can come up with some creative or a solution that we're kind of stuck with, that someone will have an idea, like an embroidery guy might have an idea that will be
Mm,
genius, and we do it in, and we make an adjustment with our factory and see how it samples out.
hmm. And I think like that, for me personally, the reason why I've always like gravitated to what you guys do is because the function is always at like a super high level, but the taste and like look is also like matches that energy, which again, from
Thank
a
you.
product standpoint is so hard to do. Like how are you like keeping those at scale just to make sure that things tastefully look good, but functionally also make an impact?
We've always, hung out by the rule, or the rule of thumb of less is more,
Hmm.
right? Like we don't need big logos, right? We want things to be subtle and look good and classy. Um, so yeah, less is more. Like we're always, if a client or customer asks what their logo thread color should be, we always push them towards color coordinate, right?
Hmm.
Because you'll take a subtle pop color that might be on one bag, throw in, a little pink on there because there's a pink zipper pull, and
Yep.
damn, that logo pops, right?
Yeah.
So less is more is kind of the key to those final thought processes because if there's too much going on something, man, it's not gonna look good.
Yeah. Well, and how much has like where you guys grew up? Because I worked at Nike, lived in Beaverton, and like
Hmm.
it's not a fashion hub, but it is there is an insane level of like taste and art that happens in Portland and Beaverton, Westlake, what or Lake Oswego, like everywhere around that area. Like how much influence are you guys pulling in from just where you guys live and exist?
A lot. I mean, we started around the same time with Seamus Golf too. I'm great friends with Akbar Chisti, right? So,
Hmm.
we'll take inspirations from each other. And Mackenzie Golf is another one that's doing a great job. Yeah, like you said, there's just so much going on here in Portland. Um, and it is kind of a hidden gem as far as golf goes.
Oh
Like
my
it's
gosh.
it's really pure here in the summer, especially right now. Our golf courses are so good,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of good mid ams here as well. We like to say the Oregon Am's going on right now,
Yep.
and it's the best players are 30 plus, and it's
Hmm.
really kind of cool to see.
It's wild because a lot of people, when they find out that I'm from Oregon, the conversation is always about Bandon, which makes a ton of sense. Obviously, it's like world rankings. But I tell people to stop flying in Eugene and just driving straight to Bandon. Like flying to Portland. One of my
Yeah,
favorite golf courses in the world is Gearhart, and it's like
yeah,
this weird hidden gem that like nobody really talks about that still
yeah.
feels super intimate. And like the course history on that place is crazy. It's a super walkable course.
So
The
good.
Cannon Beach area is awesome. Like that's where my family and I go every time we go to the coast is hang around there. But there's just gems all up and down the five. When you get to Bannon, it's
So
finally
good.
like, holy smokes, how is nobody talking
Yeah,
about any of
and
these
our
courses
our
out here?
coast is so legit too, Raymond. Because like, I've been over to the East Coast and the Hamptons and all that stuff, and like Oregon coast is the same. It's just not as bougie. It's
Yep.
like, if anything, it's more beautiful and like less clutter, which kind of
Yep.
cracks me up. It's like I can't believe people drive in traffic to go out there for that rat race when like we're just so blessed on the West Coast with all this stuff. Like you got the beach is an hour and a half max away, the mountains
Hmm.
an hour away. Then you can go all the way to the high desert in Central Oregon in 4 hours, 3 hours, and down to Bannon in four.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a little
it's
harder for me because I'm way out here in the sticks, but like desert golf out here is super nice. Like Wild
yeah.
Horse is great. Even the
Oh
tracks up in
yeah,
Tri-Cities are
yeah,
insane. And it's so
100%.
different than like inland in Portland. Like a Pumpkin
Hmm.
Ridge is way different than a Wild Horse. And then a Gearhart is a lot different than Pumpkin, which is way different
Hmm.
than Wild Horse. So yeah, the reality of like people constantly talk about, man, again, it's worth it, but there is so many insane courses, great food, good
Yeah,
people, good
the
places to
food
stay
is
too.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the food is
Um,
legit.
so I think now that obviously like there's global reach, and I've hit you guys up about like the WAAC collabs and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, in the terms of like the modern golf conversation, everything has been still like family owned. Like how important is that from your guys' standpoint? It feels like you had mentioned it still has that like very specific like family atmosphere. To me, that feels like a superpower because you guys can move a little bit different.
Yeah, we're much more nimble. We don't have any outside investors. Like I said, we're a small team of 20 that might look bigger to the outsider if you're looking at our newsletter and our Instagram page, but it's definitely the culture here is something I'm very, very proud of. Um, and it's not to a lack of trying, it's to a lack of not trying and just being ourselves
Mm,
and making sure everyone's taken care of. And that's something I continue to pride myself on because I don't want to lose that.
yep.
Otherwise, I don't think it'll be fun. I don't think it'll be fun anymore. Like I very much enjoy getting up and coming to this office and hanging out with everyone here and trying to get stuff done and you know bring cool golf stuff to the world.
To that point, have you guys been through any ruts, or is there any like sparks that came up that kind of like reignited some of that energy? Because again, like startup is very hard. It's very difficult. It's a
Yeah,
grind.
I was very, very threatened by COVID when, the world kind of shut down and it's like, what am I going to do?
Mm,
If like, we have to close the building down and I can't pay, people can't work. I was prepared to like take out a huge loan and pay people to keep the lights on.
yeah.
Um, but thankfully, it never really truly shut down. And a lot of our employees at the time were very young.
Mm,
So they came in, no major health risk or anything. So we never really shut down. And obviously, golf was one of the only things you could do when COVID happened. So you got a lot of new golfers, and we boomed,
yeah.
which was really really cool, especially on the D2C side.
What was moving that, was there anything that like surprised you, or is it pretty
Everyone
like
just
cut
needed
and
a golf
paste?
bag. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the trooper was moving, and that's definitely our mover right now. That's our bag that you can carry all year round, has the most space and is the most functional.
Did you notice like an influx of questions from like quote unquote new golfers that were coming in that were either curious about the Jones brand or just like trying to figure out what bag was right for them? Because I was always
Yeah,
curious with just this
yeah.
influx
I
of
mean,
people, like you're
the,
going to get
the
some
biggest
interesting
question to
conversations.
this day will always be weight,
Mm,
which to me is like weight is how much stuff you're going to put in your bag.
yeah.
So like, it's kind of on you, guy. Uh,
Yeah.
but more than anything, it's all about balance, right? The
Hmm.
balance of the bag has to be right. It has to like be easy to pick up and grab and sling over your shoulders and feel comfortable walking down the fairways. And to that point, I'm like, I'll always love the original more than anything because picking that thing up, slinging it over your shoulders backwards, the balance of that thing is perfect. You have everything at your fingertips because the pockets are down below, the clubs are behind
Hmm.
you, and I love the sound of dropping that thing down on the ground when you stick one on the green and you got to pull out your putter.
Hmm. Yeah, that I mean, I get a lot of DMs about bag like requests or any like feedback or anything, and I always shout out the Rover. One of it is like again visually it
Rover,
looks really
Rover
good.
is the player's bag, dude.
The
Like,
two-tone is
yeah,
again it's one of those like, well, how has nobody thought
yeah,
about this? But also you
that
guys
thing
get the
is so
color right
light.
too.
Yeah, thank you. We got some heat coming too. We just got some samples in for next year.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
that's
We're not
sick.
gonna stop with that Rover. Don't worry. Yeah,
No, that bag is a banger. That's like my most used bag. I get a ton of questions about it anytime I take it out because I think like the colorway is super unique. A lot of sneakerheads love it just because it's a really great color palette. But then the bag, they pick it up for the first time. And that's the first thing they say is like, I don't carry a bunch of stuff with me either. But
yeah.
still, like when you
If you
have
don't
a
need a
lot of these
if
cart
you don't need a
bags,
rain suit, you're good with that thing.
yeah,
That's
it's
that's kind of
insane.
the only knock on it is if it's raining, you're limited on space. But as far as being light and performing, the Rover stand is definitely
Hmm.
a good bag that took us a long time to develop, and we're very happy with how it came out.
Mm. To that point, is there any brands like outside of golf that are golf adjacent that you guys look at in terms of like design inspo, even with like color palettes and stuff to that
For the
degree
golf
too?
bags,
Just in general.
well, color palettes is Chris Carnahan. He's way ahead of the curve and always has been with that. He's always thinking outside the box. Like I'm sure you saw the Painted Hills collection that we dropped not too long ago.
Hmm.
That's just an Oregon inspiration that he literally took from these beautiful hills and made them a reality of the golf bag. You got the moss, you got the clay, and then you got the natural, which kind of just brings that beautiful scenic view into a palette of bags. And a
Hmm.
lot of people don't think like that, but my business partner Chris always has been, and he's always good at it. He's always pushing himself to find the next palette for the next season, because it's hard to
Yeah.
do year in
No,
and
for
year
sure.
out. Like how are you going to keep that fresh?
Well, and I love that it makes its way into like the full portfolio too, like the A2 bag, which I think the whole Pro Shop team has those A2 backpacks, which are one of my favorite like travel backpacks. From like a
Yeah,
functionality standpoint,
that's a
how
great it's a great
do
daily
you guys
commuter.
know when like stuff is finished and you're like, okay, this bad boy's ready to launch?
Probably about two or three samples.
Hmm.
Not too bad, but yeah, going back about two or three sample sessions. We'll take a lot of inspiration from other bags, and get inspired to add a certain type of pocket that we like off some bag, and make it our baby, if you will.
Hmm. That's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, people swear by that A2 bag too. I mean, me too. Again, to your point,
It's
like
really good.
once you engage with the brand in a certain world, and then you can also get the duffel, the backpack, all these other like different pieces, your ecosystem is then it all like sing. It's just like the Apple ecosystem. It just
Yeah,
marries well together.
yeah.
Um, and then I wanted to talk about content too. I talked about it a little bit, but I think I want to say it was like the last summer, there was just a ton of content in golf specifically that was just really bad. Um, and I think what you guys did with the foundation, which I'm actually like doing a write up on, when did that like framing come into mind as a group, the story of Jones, and like how did you guys come to the position of telling it through that like foundation content series? Because it's really, really good. I don't think
Thank
it
you.
got the love that it needed. That's why I was like, one of those
Thank you.
things that I want to go back to and like show some more love to because it's insanely good.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was kind of one of our employees here has a good friend that kind of helped us with that, and wanted to like kind of just take a special project like that on. And we've
Mm,
always wanted to tell that taxi cab story of, how important Jones was to golfers back in the early 70s and 80s. And so
mm-hmm.
kind of just it all came together with um, bringing in the fact that Jones can be carried by anyone. So that's where
Yep.
you get all those different bios with all those people in the foundation that you see. And it all just kind of came together naturally with that story that Chris Carnahan and I have told year in and year out. Like this is what he did. He started in a cab. He dominated the college and high school markets for 20, 30 years, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like turning that into a quick little infomercial that really resonates and looked old school and nostalgic. It just, yeah, it came together really well. And to your point, I think it was the coolest video we've ever made.
No, 100%. Yeah, and I think a little bit too is because the way that it was shot, the characters, the storytelling, the like the narrative pieces in it, but also there's a bunch of like made for golfers by golfers. Like there's all these like cliche lines that exist in the category, which people regurgitate over and over and over, even to this day. But I felt like that one stuck out because the way that it was told was so unique, and it's very nostalgic. It's very Jones,
Yeah.
which I
Thank
loved.
you. Yeah. Yeah. We're very proud of that. I appreciate that.
Um, and then what did I have here? Oh, so I want to talk about the vintage shop too, because that was something that I gave a lot of love to, because you guys were ahead of the curve by almost, it feels like a year now. Everybody's like stepping into the archives, which is really cool and interesting. But your guys' vintage shop, where did the idea of that come into play?
Well, it goes back to the old just buying bags off eBay, right? For
Yeah.
inspiration. So yeah, I mean, we'll shop on there every once in a while just to like load up the warehouse for display.
Hmm.
And yeah, one of our guys, Matt Hedges, I think it was like, we should just throw these on the website and sell them and see what happens,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of just one of those moments. It's like, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. Yeah, let's give it a go. And people ate it up. It was dope. And we're gonna do one again. we sold out of them quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're stacking up more. Um, as we go, you scour the internet for eBay, and we'll do another one of those for sure.
Have you thought about doing like a refined like classics where you take some of those like eBay ones, some that you could like do an actual general sell? Because I think I talked to you guys, some of them it's like you can't obviously sell
I mean,
some of the bags
a
because of the
lot of our
marks.
bags do have a lot of the characteristics of some of those, but like, whew, man, there's some misses. Like you'll go
Mm-hmm.
through and you're like, wow, what was he doing here? So it'll kind of make you chuckle, but yeah, I mean, you don't want to reinvent the wheel too much, right? Like, can't mess with the original. I know he did a little bit here and there, but like, it's been proven that, the SKU that we developed here is kind of just the one that we don't want to mess with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just changing the materials and the colorways is kind of just something we'll always stick to. Because I don't
Yep.
know if you've touched and felt the Painted Hills collection, but it's a canvas as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the original you see on our site, which is a nylon, and we also have one. The Heritage Collection is a vinyl.
Yep.
Kind of just gives it a whole different vibe just by changing materials and mixing and matching with colorways like that.
Have you guys like tried or experimented with new textiles that just haven't quite worked yet, or something that you guys are like trying to nail down?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, we're working on one that was actually popular in very, very early on, which was wax canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's beautiful, but also kind of a warranty nightmare.
Mm,
So we've been working on sourcing something along those lines, which really gives it a rich, old school, kind of distressed look.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of similarities between what like Ralph Lauren does. Like they have their purple label, which is like top shelf wine, and then they even do on their website like some of their classic like true vintage pieces that they'll resell for insane prices just because it's some of the stuff that existed for a really long time. But yeah, some of like the same methodology between like what you guys are doing from an expansion product standpoint, which is cool. Um,
Yeah.
in that standpoint, like what are the conversations that you guys are having right now? I was able to get like a decent amount of sneak peeks. Obviously, some of that stuff is dropping now from the PGA show last year, this
Mhm.
last December. But is there anything that's on your guys's like mindset that you can't wait for that you're really excited about?
We've been working on developing another stand bag for a couple of years now and haven't got it quite right yet. That is kind of geared towards the very good golfer, like the collegiate golfer. Like those guys beat up the golf bag, right? They play
Mm,
36 a day tournaments. Like they'll run through a golf bag pretty quickly. So we really want to like try and nail that golfer, which has been a challenge to do. Albeit our trooper definitely suffices, but we think we can do better. So we've been developing something that has a little bit more of a modern top, and a sleeker look that's maybe not as vintage looking, but
mhm.
it's a fine line, right? Like when you want to stay true to your roots and push the envelope, how far can you go? Right? We don't want to put out a bag that doesn't look like a Jones bag. So we've been having a difficult time trying to find that balance with this one, but we're getting very close, and hopefully we can push that out sometime next year.
How does that work internally? Is it just like a collective of you guys, whether or not it's,
Yeah, I mean,
three
we'll
yeses,
get a
four
sample. We'll
nos?
get a sample in, right, and then we'll go out and product test it. We'll carry
Mm,
it for a round or two. What was good about it? What could be better? Was the balance right? What needs to happen here? Is this pocket deep enough? Just kind of going through all the checklist of like what can be better about this to be, in essence, hopefully the perfect bag for somebody.
how far do you take that before you either have to put it on ice or like completely cut the project? Or has
Ninety
that ever
percent.
happened before?
90% is a great goal.
Yeah.
Nothing's
And
going to be perfect. We've always
mhm,
lived by 85, 90%.
got it. Um, and I guess yeah, like from like a perspective of the future state, is there anything like on your guys, have you guys thought about like flagship stores or um obviously like you guys have expanded from a global footprint, like is there anything that has surprised you in these last couple of years in terms of like how much you guys have expanded?
Japan and Korea do well from that aspect of like retail shops and flagship stores, but it's kind of difficult for us here because people just don't like walk into a retail shop and buy a golf bag as opposed to
Hmm.
like buying a shirt or a polo. So, you know, spending the money for floor space in, say, an outdoor mall is so expensive and so hard to make your money back. So we've never really like tried tried that from an aspect. We'll do, a pop up here and there, but people more so than not buy things offline.
Mm.
So kind of like the art of retail shopping isn't nearly as popular here in the States as it is, on a global scale in Asia. So we've kind of just stick to what we do best.
Hmm. No, that's interesting. That makes sense. And then in terms of like just evolution of the brand, not in terms of like product, but just overall brand, like like how do you guys constantly trying to evolve as a brand with like you said, but still retaining like the heritage and like the iconic nature that is of Jones?
To not reinvent the wheel, right, Raymond? I mean, it's just like our bags don't go out of style. I think our best bet is to just keep it fresh with the color palettes each year. The bags do have a shelf life of 1 to 2 years, depending on how much golf you're going to play. You can
Hmm.
never have enough golf bags, as I like to say. They're like men's purses. Like you can never have enough. You might have a carry bag for the summer, a stand bag for the fall. So just kind of keeping our customer base and taking care of the customer has always been our key goal because we do have quick turn times. We will answer your phone call and take care of you. Like we're not going to tell you to go pound sand. We're gonna do what we can to take care of the Jones customer and keep them as loyal as we can.
Hmm. To that point, what's been like your personal favorite project that you guys have put out?
Ever?
Hmm.
Oh man, that's tough. Whew.
Because
Give
there's
me
been
one
some
second.
bangers.
Thank you. Man, I think like the Heritage Collection as of recent is really, really good.
Hmm.
We call it vegan leather. It's not real leather, but it definitely looks like that old school lazy boy couch that, your dad might have sat on. It's just it's pure and rich and good and kind of captures the essence of the heritage of Jones.
Hmm.
And like I told you earlier, my favorite bag, and it will always be, is the original because that's our Air Force One, and that's what got us to where we are today.
That's sick. Yeah, it's like a nice patina on like a stove that I have one of those like smokeless fires
The forest
when
green
it starts
is
to
really good.
patina.
And
Yeah.
I'm a duck, so I got to go with the green.
And then the last question that I ask everybody on the way out, kind of similar to what I just asked, but this doesn't have to be specific to golf. What's the story behind the one item in your closet that you'll never get rid of? And what's that item mean to you?
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be golf.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be bags either.
My Josh Hart jersey that he gave me.
Is it signed?
I'm buddies with Josh. Yeah, he when he was playing for the Blazers in Portland,
Yep.
um, a buddy of mine hooked me up with him, and we played a bunch of golf at Oswego Lake before he got traded and stayed in touch. And every time he comes back to Portland, he always hits me up to come down to the court and shows my kids some love, and he's
That's
given us a
awesome.
couple game jerseys. And actually, I took my son to Game One of the Eastern Conference Finals on their historic run there of
Oh,
almost
wild.
getting the ship. So that was sick. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
shout out Josh Hart.
He's a good character too.
Oh, he's obsessed with golf.
Yeah.
Obsessed. He just wants to like play as hard as he can for as long as he can, and then just play golf. He's like, I'm
All
ready to
those
retire.
guys are like that. It's
Oh
insane. So
yeah,
I don't know if you know, but my
he won like they won like some, a game in overtime, and then he's hitting me up. He's like, "Hey, how'd you play today?" I'm like, "Dude,
that's all they're thinking about. That's
I'm
all they're
playing in my
thinking about.
memory." He's like, "How'd you do today?" I'm like, "Dude,
My
did all right."
so my younger brother, he played in the NFL for 7 seasons, and so like, and we both played college football together at Western Oregon,
Okay.
and he went undrafted to the Chargers when they were in San Diego, and then was a part of like the transition when he went to the StubHub in LA,
Yeah.
and then my wife got into nursing school in California in Irvine, so we both lived in Irvine at the same time, which is just like of all the things that could have happened, us being in the same city at that point in time was wild. But that's when like golf like started to suffocate me because I was in the backyard of like all these OEMs and like amazing golf courses and stuff. But then being around a lot of those league guys, like that is literally all they think about. Other than
Yeah.
like obviously in season, they're like pretty in it. But the second that like final whistle blows, they're getting fitted, they're getting new sticks, they're
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get like it's
Oh, the grind,
insane.
dude. Yeah, the grind. He'll
It's
like just
wild.
randomly, "Hey, what 7 wood do you have again?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"TaylorMade, dude."
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Sick.
it's addicting, and like, it keeps you in it. Like golf's the
Yeah.
best that way because I'm, 38 years old. I'm probably playing better than I have in a long time, and I think I have a shelf life of another 10 years, hopefully, of hitting it as far as I do, and
Hmm.
still chirping and talking shit and having fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, no, I need to get over there though. I keep saying it, but one of these days, probably next time we go to the beach, I'm gonna try and stop by and say what's up, take a bunch of
yeah,
pictures of you
dude.
guys'
You
warehouse.
gotta play us. You gotta play Oswego with me. It's
Mm.
kind of, in my opinion, should be one of the best considered courses in Portland. It doesn't get enough love.
Do you get to run Eugene Country Club at all?
I've played it a few times, but yeah, not in a while. I
Have you
mean,
been to?
Eugene's like the best country club in Oregon,
Yeah.
course
Have you
wise. It's
have you played Bar Run yet
no,
in Rosenberg? Dude, I
no, I
heard
heard
that
it.
place is supposed to be legit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
another spot that I want to get out to. But yeah, I gotta, the very little least, I gotta get out to Portland and come hang out.
yeah, yeah.
Um, no, I appreciate it, man. Is there anything else on the way out you want people to know about, where they can find you guys, what you guys are up to?
Yeah, I mean, lastly, you might have seen us teasing it on Jones, and I know I sent you a hat, but we got
Mm,
another old Oregon brand, actually older than Jones, Foresters, that we are bringing back to the market this fall, and it's kind of just like old school vintage layering pieces, outerwear, if you will. It was kind of the outerwear piece back in the day before, Gore-Tex was even around.
hmm.
So kind of reviving that with a new age twist and sticking to the roots of the brand, similar to what we do with Jones.
Maybe I don't want these
Lights
to be
just
like
went
one
out.
and dones.
Lights just went
I know,
out.
again, perfect. Sign off, mic drop. We'll have to jam again about that because that's one of those, again, OG brands I think a lot of people will be interested in. And especially because you guys took over, like I think people will be really curious on just how that came to be,
Yeah,
and then like the why now too would
yeah,
be interesting.
please.
So let's jam on that too.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I'll hit you with the seed here in kind of August. You'll get that, and then we can get on in September after we drop.
Sick. Sounds good. Awesome.
Raymond,
Appreciate it, my man.
please come see me and play some golf, bro.
Yes, I
I
will.
got you. Yeah, I'd love to roll out the red carpet for you.
Appreciate it.
Cool, bro.
All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Scratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to scratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.